All right, very good pun, very good indeed from Scotland, and it's good to hear young people involved in pan music and all of that. That's good, really good. Dr. Joan Bobb-Ward has been an educator for the past 48 years. She has served at all levels of the education system in Trinidad and Tobago and has been a special educator for the past 31 years. She holds a PhD in education, a MD in distinction in youth guidance, and a B.Ed in first-class honors, educational administration, and a certificate in education teaching of the hearing impaired from the University of the West Indies. Dr. Bobb-Ward is a former head of the University of the West Indies Open Campus, Trinidad and Tobago, and served as the site coordinator of the Tobago location. She also sat on the leadership team of the College of Science, Technology and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago, and was Dean of the Tobago Campus. Her wide experience as a tertiary level educator includes tutoring at the UWI Open Campus, Tobago, supervising research for postgraduate students and practicum supervisor of the B.Ed Educational Administration and the B.Ed Early Childhood Childhood Care and Education, lecturing at the postgraduate level in the Masters of Youth Guidance and also Masters Inclusive Education programs, and lecturing and leading special education advanced studies and early childhood intervention in the B.Ed Early Childhood Care and Education program of the University of the West Indies. She also writes and teaches courses in special education at COSTAPH, that's COSTAATH. She will explain that when she comes. She reviews lectures, she publishes research and supervises postgraduate students for the University of Guyana. As a special needs and inclusive consultant, she consistently advocates for the rights of persons with disabilities and provides training for churches and schools and other entities. Her national contribution includes serving on the Cabinet-appointed Advisory Committee on Special Education, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association Special Education Committee, and the Cabinet-appointed Committee of Standardizing Trinidad and Tobago Sign Language. She is an external evaluator for the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago and was a key member or author of the Dictionary of Trinidad and Tobago Sign Language. Internationally, Dr. Bobb-Ward reviewed the Health Handbook for Women with Disabilities for the Hesperian Foundation, California in 2007. Dr. Bobb-Ward is an avid researcher and has presented conference papers locally and internationally. She has served local churches as choir leader, strategic planning committee member, women's ministry leader, and education secretary. She serves the South Caribbean Conference of Seventh-day Adventists as chairman of the curriculum committee, member of the Women's Ministry Advisory, and member of the Advisory Committee on Special Needs Ministry at the South. She is the founder and leader of the non-governmental organization Hope and Action Network, which seeks to educate, empower, and build a better society. Above all, she loves the Lord, and whether she is called upon to pray, preach, or speak, she willingly answers is called to serve. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Joan Bobb-Ward.
Thank you, thank you. I am going to observe the protocol that has been established. It's so good to be here. And the program says I'm from Trinidad But you didn't hear the sing-song accent. I am from Tobago. And you see, I identify well with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am a Vincentian. I have been to Fancy. Yes, I actually worked here for the University of the West Indies when they were training principals and special teachers. So I went all around Richmond, had a fish roti in Chateaubelair, went to Fancy 4 times, asked the driver to stop and let me get out, and walk up the hill, and you pick me up when you get up there, and so on. It's good to be here. It's good to be here. Yes, and when Cheryl, I didn't tell my husband, and I took from the kitty to come here. So what we good? Good? Okay. All right, but yes, I couldn't tell Cheryl, no, you know the kind of person Cheryl is. So I greet you all, and I'm happy to be here. I congratulate Cheryl and her team on reaching 7 years. And so I'm going to speak this evening, and I change the topic a little bit. I'm saying going strong with the Proverbs in God's overflow. Yes. You're celebrating 7 years. And 7 years is about middle childhood. And that time brings many changes in the lives of children. It's a time when they can dress themselves. Yes. It's a time when they can catch a ball without putting it onto their body, so they have been developing. It's a time when they can tie their shoelaces and they relish being independent. It's a time when they want to interact with the larger world. It provides that opportunity. They begin to gain more friendships. And so their physical, social, and mental skills are developing quickly. And this is a time, a critical time, for them to develop confidence in all areas of life. As a 7-year-old from a remote village in Lansing, Tobago, a village that the late Prime Minister Dr. Eric Eustace Williams called behind God's back, I was hardly seen and heard. We were poor. We played barefooted and undisturbed in the yard. Our toys were provided by nature. We engaged in socio-dramatic play using stones and sticks and water and coconut boats and everything that God provided. We knew little about the outside world, and our parents struggled. 7-year-olds of today, they walk differently. Amen. Their language is advanced. They are assertive. They are aware. They master technology, while technology befuddles people like you and me. And I want to tell you about my little 7-year-old granddaughter. I'm retired, so I do all kinds of things at home. And recently I was helping a friend by making a wedding dress for her. I like to see people get married. Yes. And so my granddaughter called. And she said, "What you doing, Grandma Joe?" And I said, "I'm making a wedding dress." She said, "How much did that bride pay for that?" So I went on to say how much she paid for the fabric, the material. She said, "Yeah, but how much did she pay you?" I said, "Well, I didn't charge her." She said, "But Grandma Joan, that's the point of having a business, to make money. Your bank account should be through the roof." I said, "Kayla, where do you get these things from?" She said, "Grandma Joan, you know what they always say? A magician must never reveal his secrets." 7 years old. 7 years old. Like a modern 7-year-old, Voice of the Disabled is forced to negotiate a myriad of complex realities. And one of them is the conceptions that society holds about persons with disabilities. And I conducted a research in Tobago about disability and disability issues. And my research revealed that society upholds several philosophies of disability. Some demonstrate adherence to what we call the religious model, And they also hold two opposing philosophies, the medical model and the social model. And then I discovered that some held all of them, which I termed the eclectic model of disability. Because one time they were believing one thing, and at other times they were believing something else. Now, these models, I want to talk a little bit about them. The medical model of disability is a pity of a model. It disempowers persons with disabilities, and it regards them as needed fixing, as though something is wrong with them, and any problem they experience is theirs. Now, the social model points to a socio, societal, and political, and the minister is wiping his face at this point, but I heard him, and environmental orientations and shortcomings. So it says that the society is not ready for persons with disabilities. That's what it says. And it places the responsibility of serving persons with disabilities squarely on the shoulders of society. And it demands the elimination of attitudinal, architectural, administrative, and programmatic barriers to participation for persons with disabilities. To a lesser extent, society views disabilities from a religious perspective, and that's not good. Because the religious perspective says that God is punishing you for something that you did. Much like the disciples who saw Jesus' disciples saw a man sitting by the wayside and asked him, Master, who did sin? Was it this man or was it his parents? Because they thought that he was being punished. And I remember, there was a family in Tobago with several persons with disabilities, and they said that it's because his father did something bad why they were being punished. We are not God, and we're not supposed to do that. Persons with disabilities were loved by God, and we heard my pastor just now talking about the many miracles that Jesus did, and most of them were for persons with disabilities. So as a society, we have to reject some of these negative constructs. True. Furthermore, we have a dark history of negative interaction and rejection of persons with disabilities. Caribbean society does not fully reflect the social model of disability. There is a need for societal effort and societal endorsement. However, several of our stories of treatment of persons with disabilities bear themes of societal rejection and mistreatment. And although we have moved beyond some of the atrocities of the past, including intolerance, societal fear, prejudice, ambivalence, and a disturbing ignorance regarding disability, there is a strong, long road ahead. Yeah. A summary of our past reveals that persons with disabilities were starved, burned, shunned, isolated, strangled, beaten, submerged in hot water, chained, gassed, caged, shot, hanged, warehoused, sterilized, sedated, tortured, subjected to infanticide, and used as objects of amusement. Thankfully, we have moved beyond those evils. Yes, we have agreed that persons with disabilities have rights, but we must advocate for our governments to address the challenge of translating a rights base, because we signed the rights, but we must have them translate this right-based argument into a culture of social justice and equity. This requires a deep culture change and a change across the entire society, because if we do not have that deep change, we are going to be moving nowhere, and every little step we make will be reversed. While international, regional, and local documented commitments to inclusion espouse a social justice approach, and a reflection of the social model of disability. There are not, or these are not dominant traditions in the minds of our stakeholders. These are not dominant traditions. We talk about social justice. We talk about moving to social justice, but the stories are replete with problems of discrimination and negative attitudes. These are deeply held beliefs and practices that present a challenge. This prevailing negativity towards disability has caused persons with disabilities to retreat, has caused persons with disabilities and their families to retreat into a position of inferiority. And this is a very normal response. And some theorists refer to it as the symbolic interactionism theory, that suggests when people experience situations, they interpret those experiences, they assign meanings to those experiences, and they react to those meanings. Society sees persons It fell. Oh. Yes. It's okay. It's warm and nice out here. They react to those experiences. Society sees persons with disabilities as tainted, as discounted, as being subjects of exclusion and rejection and stigmatization and stereotyped. Persons with disabilities and their families have responded by viewing society as a wicked system that will not serve their needs. Furthermore, they see themselves as victims of oppression, of discrimination, of scorn, and of neglect. I further want to explain this by speaking about what I call a survivalist matrix of exclusion. I use the term survivalist matrix to depict the struggle they experience. And if you think of a matrix, let's think about two sides. And on the left side of the matrix, the outer border, we have disability history and the types of experiences that I just spoke of. But we are talking about moving them from beyond that left side over to a social justice idea of inclusion that is consistent with the principles that are enshrined in the international, regional, and local documents that promote inclusion. But between that right side and that left side, we have the persons with disabilities being squeezed, crying out for help. Within that matrix, we find them reacting according to the theory and dynamics of symbolic interactionism. We see them interpreting what is being done to them, and so they feel buried within this matrix. This matrix represents a system in which policymakers propose to move the society from its tradition of exclusionary practices and beliefs to a social justice idea of inclusion. However, exclusion and social justice are incompatible. Exclusion and social justice are incompatible. When you look at our society, it is stratified by color. For the lighter color get the opportunities. It is stratified by class and by culture and by geographic location. And I'm from the country in Tobago. And when you're from the country, they call you country bookie. And when you go to town, they say country bookie come to town. Yes. And of course, I'm sure there is some kind of judgment based on which islands of the Grenadines you belong to. Yeah, if you belong to the richer ones where I think you're better off and you have more privilege. Racial exclusiveness, and prejudice have influenced education, employment, have influenced court proceedings, marriage, promotion, sports, and social activities. Pervasive discriminatory attitudes which spanned pre- and post-emancipation eras included anti-white and anti-black sentiments. And I know that just up the road, or a little some distance up, we have some persons who had to say, look, take this out of your reading books. We are not warlike and we don't eat anybody. Yes. I told you I know about St. Vincent. Susan Craig James, in her book, speaks about James Todd Rousseau being denied promotion because he was black, and another person was refused to allow a black doctor or a half-white doctor to attend to his wife because he was white. She also notes that some black persons, even though they later rose to a certain level because of the education, they still were faced with discrimination.
True.
Persons residing in and around Scarborough, the capital of Tobago, were called town people and were regarded as civilized, while those residing outside of those areas were considered to be uncivilized. But social justice denounces all of these, and social justice demands that we receive equitable treatment despite our disability.
That's right.
I'm saying our because if I take these off, what's on the paper, I don't know. Despite our gender, despite our socio-economic status, despite our beliefs or religion or race or location, and any other difference. I want to tell you something. Persons with disabilities don't trust us. They do not believe in us. They are uncertain about what we will do for them because we have shamed them and we have disempowered them. And so we have forced them to occupy the base of that survivalist matrix that I spoke of a while ago. But we can dismantle that matrix by addressing the negative attitudes, beliefs, and practices. It requires the development of policies and practices that foster inclusion, that foster equity, that ensures that everyone in the society understands disabilities and serves persons with disabilities. The medical model is a learned philosophy, and persons do not really deliberately wish to treat people as abnormal, subnormal, and deficient. However, we have taught them that. We have taught them that. So this is the time when we have to focus on educating them into a social justice idea of inclusion. This is the time when we have to seek to remove all fears, remove long-lasting cultural beliefs and institutional practices, where we have to reduce the ignorance and fear. And I remember when I was having my very last son, I was a trainee at the Cascade School for the Deaf. And persons looked at me and thought I was crazy to be having a baby and working at a school for persons with disabilities. And they asked me, yes. So they said, you're afraid a child come out like them? And I said, no. You're afraid he come out deaf? I said, no. And I worked up to the day before I had him. And when we tested his hearing, it was perfect. Yes. I usually say, except for when his room was dirty and I say, clean it. He was hearing everything. So it did not affect him except for in that one area. What does all of this mean for Voice of the Disabled? 7 years old. You're 7 years old. Yeah. And a modern 7-year-old. So modern day maturity and awareness of the realities that face you is what you are to focus on. Yes. It means that you recognize you're a global child. A child with access to knowledge and a predisposition to master technology. It means that your value and reach is significant. And having ended your first cycle, you are now aligned with God's symbol of completeness. And you're poised to begin and complete other cycles. the task of dismantling the survivalist matrix and taking your place in society is yours.
Beautiful.
Your beginnings were built on a rock. When Mrs. Adams heard 1 Corinthians 2:9, but as it is written, I have not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things that God hath prepared for them that love him. She heard it for each and every person with disabilities. It signaled the beginning of God's overflow. She's assured of a firm foundation, divine guidance, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and protection. She heard it from a better St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I urge you to use your struggles positively. Learn from those struggles and use them as springboards to leap to greater things. The future is uncertain, despite the planning and visioning, but you know who holds the future. Use your beautiful proverbs to motivate you. When you think that you're behind other countries and organizations in your development, remember the Vincent proverb that says, you see where the moon there? They are going to catch it. Where hearts reach, don't people reach. When you do not see things going your way, do not be discouraged. Remember, one day I go conquer day. One day I go be conquered day. You never know who windows come from and lean for tail. So things will change. As long as you are honest and professional, do not lose sleep over anything. Clear conscience sleep at thunder. Clear conscience sleeps in thunder. However, do not sleep too long. Because victory not come from laying on a bed. You have struggled in the past. And I cannot promise you all good news going forward. You will face more struggles in the future. But the utter battle is sweeter than the victory. Do not be afraid. If you're afraid, yeah, you can your head. Just attack the task bit by bit, because every myth will make a muckle. If you can't walk fast, take time walk. And not dash race stick before you're done cross. Despite the struggles, put on a brave face. Dagger sweat and long hair, hide it. Mother Prime said it will always be so. Outward success often masks hidden struggles or stress. Get out there and continue to demand your due. Do not shelter or be sheltered. If crab no walk, it now get fat. Rockstone and river bottom, no sun at. And you need to be out there in the sun. Get into the heat and be recognized. Do not give up in the face of difficulties. Take time, kill ants, and you will find the belly. When cloud shadow come, sun must set. And remember to network. Work with others. Cooperate with others. One hand can't clap, and one finger can't catch lice. Keep your eyes on the goal, and the future, and your destination. And before I close, I want to tell you that in 1963, when it was Hurricane Flora, we had to sleep in the church that night. I was quite small, and my brother and my sisters and I, we got up the next morning and we tried to find home. Couldn't find the road. You couldn't find the road. All the motel tree and the this tree and the that tree fell in the road, but we knew the direction of home. And so we headed in that direction. So sometimes when you can't see the way ahead, all you need to know is the direction in which you're going. And recognize that you don't need to know the way ahead. You only need to see the master's
All right. Wonderful. When I did her introduction, I know that this was a lady who was extraordinary. years of experience that she have gathered indeed borne fruit here today in that marvelous speech. And I do hope that it sank in and we will benefit tremendously from all that you have spoken. Give her one more round of applause, please. Alright, so we're going to move quickly to the cutting of the ribbon, and that will be followed by the song from the VOP. And then we go into the blessing of the dead. Well, we're going to have the song last. Just before the vote of thanks, we're going to have the song. So the others will flow, right? So now we have the... Yes. The song will be done just before the vote of thanks. Yes. So we move to the cutting and the blessing. Yes. So we have Simone Kane, Miss Simone Kane. Yes, Simone Kane. And then the blessing will be done by Pastor Ronald Morris. Right? Yes, so we can just get organized now.